All right, folks, I started this live feed. I'm going to wait. Got another minute before we get rolling here so people can find this video. I'm pumped. I'm excited. Get to lay into a couple of my buddies. All right, it's 8 o'clock. I see Kevin's here. So welcome to B&B's Football Happy Hour. I am Bobby. I'm bearded. I'm beautiful. And I'm solo. No Brian today. Just me. And I'm here because my league of record, we just had our draft this past weekend, this past Saturday, and I'm here to break it down for you. We're going to go into the deep depths of fantasy football. We're going to talk all kinds of players. Every round we're going to break down, not every pick. We'd be here all night. But I'm going to give it to you straight. I'm probably not going to make too many friends. I might even lose a couple in my league, and that is okay because we're going to be honest here in our breakdown. So with my league, there are 12 teams. It's a half point PPR, so not a full point, but we get a half point per reception. There's 15 rounds. We start one quarterback, two wide receivers, two running backs, one tight end, two flexes, and a defense. And we have some keeper picks. And keep in mind, this is a league I talked about where we gave kickers a boot, so we don't have to worry about them anymore. And we added a flex. Now, the best thing about this draft is that we did it on a boat. A bunch of us met. There were not 9 of the 12 of us met in Ocean City, Maryland this past weekend. And 7 of us went on a boat to do this draft live. And it was easily the best draft I've ever been a part of in my 20 years of doing fantasy sports. Now, keep in mind, I said 9 of us met in Ocean City, but only 7 of us made it to the boat because 2 of us, Chia and Dahlgren, who you'll hear a lot about them later, they decided that, I don't know, they're too good for us or something. They didn't want to come out there and enjoy the beautiful sunset and make some awesome picks out over the water. But nonetheless, I came in from North Carolina. We had Coons coming in from Dallas. We had Leach coming in from Detroit. And I'm telling you, if you can ever set up a draft on a boat, please do it because it was great. So, no crazy scoring for our draft, for our league. I mean, 4 points for passing touchdown, 6 points for rushing, receiving touchdowns, 10 points for yards gained, rushing, receiving. So basically your standard scoring for most rounds that you're in. Now for our keepers, we have a 2-round penalty from where they're drafted. So if you draft, Tom Brady in the 10th round and you want to keep him the next year, he's going to be your 8th round pick. And I'll go through all the keepers and stuff as I break down our draft members, which I'm going to do right now. And I'm going to do it in draft order so you know exactly where everybody is picking. First on the clock was Tyler. Tyler, he's the guy that never shows up. He won the draft or won the league, I think, in, 2007 or something. He still thinks he's good. But I'll give him a pass. And he was on our show talking about the Dallas Cowboys. Normally, when he's not on the show, he misses because of his military service. And this year, his wife decides that she's going to have their first kid right around draft time. So he gets a pass. And Tyler, thank you for your service, my friend. Next on the clock, picking second overall is Coons. I told you Coons flew in from Dallas. He's the miserable one. Everyone has one of those guys in their draft. However, after his move to Dallas this past summer, he has been much happier. So it's probably because he's not around us anymore. And his keeper was Austin Eckler in the 4th round. And I'm sorry, let me back up. Tyler's keeper was Chris Carson in the 5th. Picking third was Yurkis. He's a donator. Every league's got him, and he's ours. One of ours. He donates his money every single year. He is never prepared. He uses magazines for his rankings. He always drafts players that are already drafted or on IR or retired or dudes that don't even actually play football in real life. Believe it or not, he had no keepers because, he didn't draft too well previously. Now, he was the captain of our ship, Captain Yurkis, for our boat this trip. So, I don't know. I guess we'll give him a pass. Jim was picking right after Yurkis. Jim is Bob's brother. We'll meet Bob in a little bit. Jim's a good guy. He flies under the radar. I don't know. He's kind of boring. And his keeper was Kareem Hunt in the 8th. Next was Leach. Leach is our fearless commissioner. He thinks the most like me. However, I'm not sure about some of his picks in this draft. And his keeper was Terry McLaurin in the 13th, and he is welcome for that. He didn't draft Terry McLaurin last year in the 15th round. I did. And I was smart enough to use that pick because I knew Terry McLaurin wasn't going to be my keeper. And I traded it to him knowing he held extra value. I ended up with Julio Jones in return. Gave me a playoff push and ended up winning the league. So it worked out for both of us, I think. Leach, you're welcome. Next up is Phil. Home run or strike out. This dude can't play it safe for anything. He is the worst to play cornhole with. He will not lay up and get you a point. He won't play defense. He's going for the hole every time. The problem is it usually hits you in mid-shin when he tosses his beanbag. His keeper, though, I'll give it to him, Lamar Jackson in the 8th round. Great keeper, great value. Next up is Belo. Belo's the guy who drafts in weird places. He can't really make it, or he's drafting while he's on the way there. I do know that he is drafted at soccer games for his kids. He's drafted while driving. One year he drafted while mowing the grass. And his keeper was Darren Waller in the 11th. Harvey Horsey, the 4th, was picking next, a.k.a. Harvey Kuiper, a.k.a. Mel Horsey. This is the guy who can't pronounce anybody's name. I don't think we've had a draft ever where he pronounced everybody's name correctly. Now, we love Harvey. Harvey is great, but he is a Ravens homer. Everybody knows it, and his draft proves it. And he has Patrick Mahomes in the 8th round, just like Lamar Jackson. Again, great keeper pick. Bob Gibbons is next. That's Jim's big brother. He's won twice. I'm not sure how, but hey, good for you, Bob. You get lots of credit, my friend. And it could be because every single pick he makes in the draft, he looks at me to see what my response is. So, hey, good for you, Bob. I'll take it. And James Conner was his keeper in the 4th. I was next. I picked 10th overall. I'm the returning champ, and I had the best keeper. 2 years ago, I drafted Nick Chubb in the 11th. Last year, here's my 9th round keeper. This year, here's my 7th, which is why I was able to trade guys like Terry McLaurin that I knew would be keepers in the future for him because I knew I had him. So I didn't have to worry about any other keeper. After me picking 11 is Chia. He is the oldest, but the youngest tenured. Chia is also a donator. Trust me, you will see why. His keeper was Deshaun Watson in the 9th, and then picking 12th overall, Jimmy Dahlgren. He's the guy that loves the turn. I feel like he picks the turn every chance he gets, and he has the worst and weirdest drafts, but again, got to give credit where credit's due. Somehow, he's usually fighting for a playoff spot. So, Jimmy, good for you. I don't know how you pull it out with some of these drafts you have, but hey, cheers. Now, before we get rolling into round one, I'm going to check some comments here, but also most of our numbers at the end as far as positional draft picks go, fairly normal. We had 16 QBs go, so only 4 teams had 2 QBs. Oddly enough, my team was one of them. I don't really do that, but you'll see why. 63 running backs, 70 wide receivers, 21 tight ends. Why? Why did 21 tight ends get drafted? I'm still salty about it. I don't understand. It makes no sense. 8 teams, 8, have 2 tight ends. 3/4 of our league have, or 2/3 of our league have 2 tight ends. 1 team has 3. Why? My gosh, it makes no sense. So let's check out some of these comments. Kevin, I appreciate it. He told me that I'm a handsome devil. And in the words of Kevin, and I'll quote him, I appreciate your honesty. All right, Bryce Harper. I appreciate that comment. Who is, Coons, Phil, okay, Leach, all right. I can see our comments, Kevin. I was just purposely ignoring them. Coons, I can read them. Phil commented that he thought him and Leach were safe. I may have told them that they probably weren't going to get ratted on too much, but I may have lied a little bit. So, and no, Coons. Coons says I think I'm the only safe one. Me, no. I ripple myself a little bit, not much, but I did make at least one poor choice, one poor pick. So I'll go ahead and we'll get to that. Don't worry. All right, let's get back here. Round one. It was somewhat normal, except now C-Mac went first to Tyler, and Coons took Saquon, obviously. Derrick Henry went third overall. It's to Yurkis. He's just, trying to do his best. So, whatever. Mike Evans, however, went in the first round to Dahlgren with the 12th overall pick and the fourth wide receiver off the board. Dahlgren obviously doesn't listen to this podcast enough. And just to prove my point on home run Phil, he took rookie Clyde Edwards-Helaire with the sixth pick, who, don't get me wrong, has a high ceiling, but he could have a low floor as well. Again, Phil going for the home run. For me, I took Josh Jacobs at 10. I thought about Julio, but Jacobs was PFF's number 2 running back last year behind Nick Chubb. So he's going to be the workhorse for the Raiders, and the Raiders have a renewed receiving core, and I love Josh Jacobs' upside. And for me, the way I look at it is I have talent. I got the PFF's number 1 rated running back in round 7, and now I got there too. So according to an organization that just about every NFL team uses for analytical purposes, they said Chubb's number 1, Jacobs number 2. I'll take that talent all day, every day. Now, round 2 started interestingly enough. Dahlgren and Chia both took tight ends. Dahlgren took Kelsey, and Chia took George Kittle. So both of them went 0 RB strategy, which not very smart in 2020. It does work some years. We've talked about that before on the show, but 2020, I don't believe, is one of those years. So I'm up next. I'm wrestling between Davante Adams, Kenyon Drake, and Miles Sanders. Now, again, knowing I have Chubb in my back pocket was making me lean Adams, but the thought of the ceiling that Miles Sanders has and knowing that he's my flex. He's not even my running back 2. He's my flex. It was too good to pass up, so I went Miles Sanders. Adams fell all the way to Leach with the 8th pick of the second round. No way he can pass him up there. I don't know how he made it that far. But more absurdly, Joe Mixon fell all the way to Coons with the next to last pick of the second. So Joe Mixon went with a 23rd overall pick. And that was before all of the contract talks and the migraines and all that nonsense. I have no idea how that happened. And Coons doesn't even like Mixon. He hates him. But how can you pass on him there? Le'Veon Bell went before Joe Mixon to Yurkis. Again, donator. Third round, and we'll pause after this to see what questions I need to answer for our first 2 rounds. Third round, Tyler started off with going Adam Thielen over guys like Calvin Ridley, DJ Moore, Juju, OBJ, ton of other folks. Thielen is the de facto number 1 receiver for Minnesota, which means he's also going to get the opposing team's number 1 cornerback. He's not good enough to produce when he's shadowed by high-caliber NFL DBs. He was great when Diggs was the man over there and Diggs was getting that shadow coverage. He can produce against number 2 NFL cornerbacks, but not number 1. I see his production falling off big time, so I'm not sure what that pick was all about. Everything else in the round made sense for the most part. I had my sights set on OBJ. Bob came in and stole him right before my pick, so good for you, Bob. I went with my number 13th overall ranked wide receiver, Courtland Sutton. I know I'm way higher than him. I'm way higher on him than most. But he was a top 20 receiver last year, and I think he's going to be the go-to guy for Denver. Drew Lock is going to lock on him and pepper him with targets. The only other folks on the squad are rookies, basically. We have Jerry Jeudy as a rookie, KJ, what's his name, from Penn State, and Tim Patrick. I mean, that guy sounds like he should be doing our taxes, but he's trying to play football. So Courtland Sutton is definitely KJ Hamler. There it is. But anyway, Courtland Sutton is the guy in Denver. That's where they're going to go with the football. So I'm very big on Courtland Sutton. I definitely think he's going to have a big year. Chia and Dahlgren decided to finally hop on the running back train. Chia took David Johnson, and Dahlgren took Mark Ingram. neither of which I want to be my RB1. So let's hop on here, check out some of these comments. Bailey Coons. Now that's Coons' wife, easily his better half, and she is far better at fantasy than he is as well. She says more tight ends when you have 2 flex spots. I'll get to that, Bailey. Just hold your horses. I knew Kevin would like CEH at 6. He is all on that train. Phil says he agrees with me that Jurkis was driving the boat, so he does get a pass. I know. And yes, Kevin, donators are the best. Round 4, Dogger was smart enough to keep the running back train rolling and took Raheem Mostert. So now his 2 running backs are a guy who will lose his job to J.K. Dobbins and another guy who shares his backfield with 2 other RBs. With the very next pick, Chia decided to go with Mark Andrews, another tight end. The joy of drafting Travis Kelce or George Kittle, like Chia did in round 2, is that you don't have to worry about the tight end anymore. You put in autopilot, cruise control. You don't touch tight end for the rest of your draft, and you worry about building your team with running backs, wide receivers, and eventually you get a QB. Mark Andrews in the 4th. He's got 2 players on his team, and 2 of them are tight ends. Last year, Mark Andrews was the 72nd highest scoring fantasy player, and Chia took him with a 38th pick. What is happening? He took him over guys like DJ Chark, Cooper Kupp, Robert Woods. I mean, I know we have an extra flex spot, like Bailey smartly pointed out, and that was Chia's excuse during the draft. But do you really think he's going to outperform guys like that? I mean, if you're picking for a flex, pick the guy who's going to score the most points in the flex, not a tight end because you can. I don't know. I'm already planning on what I'm going to do with Chia's money. Round 5. Zach Ertz went 3rd in this round to Jurkis. Decent value, 5th round. I mean, he definitely wasn't going to get past me in the 5th. I don't like taking tight ends early, but I like that value there. May have been Jurkis's, that's probably his 2nd best pick of the draft. I also thought that DK Metcalf going in the 5th pick of the round was solid. A solid get by Leach. He could end up being the leading receiver for the Seahawks. It's going to be him or Tyler Lockett. So that's decent. I like that there. Cam Akers came off the board right before me. I think Bob took him. That's a lot of faith in a rookie. If he's the lead dog for the Rams, maybe it'll work out. But I'm sure he's going to be splitting time with Henderson. So the 5th round is too rich for me. I begrudgingly went with Brandon Cooks here as my wide receiver 3. It was probably my worst pick of the draft. Definitely my least favorite pick. Now, he should be the number 1 receiver for Houston. And every time he switched teams, which he did this past offseason, he's at 1,000 yards receiving the next year. But, man, that dude is a stiff breeze away from having another concussion. So I also thought about Tyler Boyd here. It's a much safer pick. His floor is higher than Cooks's, but I also think his ceiling is lower. There's a lot of mouths to feed there in Cincinnati. Cooks, I mean, he's got Will Fuller there and Randall Cobb and Kenny Stills, but none of those guys can really stay healthy. Neither can Cooks. But, Cooks is my 3rd wide receiver, so, I'm going for ceiling here. Again, I hated the pick, so rip me on that one, please. Yeah, that's really all I got. It makes me sad. I also could have taken Marvin Jones there. I was thinking Marvin Jones as well, but I didn't, and Coons capitalized on that here in the next round we'll talk about. Jimmy Dahlgren, he finished the 5th round with A.J. Green as his wide receiver 2. He's not even playing. He hasn't played football in 2 years. He's hurt. He's old. I mean, you want to take a flyer on him as your wide receiver 3 or 4? Do your thing. Wide receiver 2? Oh, but don't worry. He capitalized with Golden Tate, the 1st pick of the 6th round. Golden Tate. If my top 3 wideouts read Mike Evans, AJ, I haven't been healthy in 3 years, and I'm currently hurt Green, and Golden, I'm not even the best receiver on my own team, Tate, I threw up in my mouth. Chia immediately took Ronald Jones to be his RB2, which looks even worse now. Since he took 2 tight ends earlier, and now with Fournette in Tampa, He's got nothing but a backup. So I don't know. Way to go. Sorry, Chia, but man, I love you. You're like one of my favorites. But oh gosh, I wish you well in the toilet bowl, my friend. With my pick, I went against my normal draft plan, and I actually went quarterback. Sometimes you can feel a draft room, and you hear some people talking this and that, and I could kind of sense that the tier two quarterbacks were about to fly off the board. And I looked at my draft board, and I've talked about this with several people. I hate the middle rounds, and I did not like anybody I was looking at. So I took my third ranked QB. I took Russell Wilson. He's the only quarterback to have 30 plus touchdowns each of the last 3 years. And sure enough, right after that, Kyle Murray goes off the board. Dak Prescott went off the board that round. So there was a little run. Harvey, he took Devin Singletary with the fifth pick of the round. And I know that Fred Kilmartin earlier in the week, he was on our show, big time Bills guy. He actually hung out with Devin Singletary like a couple months ago. He praised Singletary and said he was the lead back, but man, this Zach Moss hype train is going full speed, and there's too much smoke for there not to be any fire. And if you ask me, I'd rather have Zach Moss a little later in the draft. Now he went early in ours. It's not usually the case, but still, I'd rather have Zach Moss. And the steal and the best pick of the round goes to miserable Dan Happy Tan Coons when he took Marvin Jones with the next to last pick of the round. Marvin Jones, he dominates when it's him and Stafford on the field together. So even though Jones is technically his wide receiver 3, he has a chance to be his wide receiver 2. So that's 3 more rounds. I think I'm going to check this chat every 3 rounds. What do we got going here? Oh, yes. Phil says the tight end analysis could take up the whole podcast. Yes, sir. It definitely could. That was a topic of discussion the entire time we were on the boat and afterwards. Coons thinks Doggun's going to get the playoffs with him, Jim, and Belo. I got a $1 bet, my friend, that says that ain't happening. Leach is very excited that he did take Metcalf. So, hey, I give credit where it's due, my friend. Kevin, can't pick flex players in the 4th. Thank you, sir. Thank you. Thank you. That's what I'm trying to say. Oh, Cooks equals trash. I know. I told you, man. It is my least favorite pick of the whole draft. Phil thinks round 6 is the best round of the draft, hence why he's going to have $0 in his bank account once this season is over. Kevin is obviously laughing hysterically at A.J. Green and Golden Tate. Kim Grossman, looking good, Bobby. Aging like fine wine. Listen, I'm going to read it out loud, even though I know it's a lie. But hey, I appreciate it. Oh, never mind. She said it was Tom, her husband. Tom. Okay, I'll take it. Phil thinks Michael Gallup was the best pick of that round. Michael Gallup was like my 40-something ranked wide receiver, 50-something. I want nothing to do with Michael Gallup. All right. Who took Jonathan Taylor? Before I get back here to the draft, let's see. Jonathan Taylor, he went early in our draft. He went in the 3rd round to Harvey. So I think it's early for Jonathan Taylor there, but my love for him, I can't talk about him enough on this. So I can't look. If Harvey wants Jonathan Taylor, good for him for taking him. Again, it's early, but that's your guy, and he can go there. So I'm all about it. And our friend Eli was on the show. He's our Colts fan, so he was asking about his boy Jonathan Taylor. All right, 7th round. This round was fairly boring. Jordan Howard went, Christian Kirk, Will Fuller. I'm not sure if Will Fuller's hamstrings were also involved in the draft pick, or if you have to pick them later or pick his hamstrings up off the waiver wire. I'm not sure how that works. Hayden Hurst went, my man Zach Moss, only one or 2 rounds later than Devin Singletary. But again, I'd rather have him. I think Zach Moss is going to be the guy. He's bigger, he's stronger, he's faster. That works out in the NFL. My pick, obviously, was Nick Chubb. He was my keeper. Of course, Chia took CeeDee Lamb far too early, and then Jimmy Duggan took Gronk to be a second tight end. Round 8, I told you Patrick Mahomes, Lamar Jackson, and Kareem Hunt were keepers. So, you know, Mahomes and Jackson are great. Kareem Hunt, why not? 8th round, that's decent value. I took with the 3rd pick, I took Tariq Cohen, and I've told you several times on the show that I am high on Tariq Cohen. I think that he can be an RB2. I mean, just 2 years ago, I think he was RB11 in a PPR league. So if my RB4 can produce even as an RB2, I will take that all day long. Deontay Johnson also went this round. Excuse me. I know a lot of folks are high on him this year. I personally am not. However, I want to throw that out there because I know a lot of people do like him. The most puzzling pick for me was Coons taking Alexander Mattison with the next to the last pick of the 8th, and he doesn't own Dalvin Cook. Very early for Mattison, even if you're handcuffing. But if you were handcuffing, I understand it because you definitely don't want someone to steal him from you. Questionable pick. Unless I'm picking him because Dalvin Cook gets hurt a lot. If you're drafting players hoping somebody else gets hurt, that's not how we do it. That's not going to pan out very often. 9th round. This round was a head scratcher. The best pick, I think, was probably Jim. He took Jamison Crowder with the 4th pick of the round. Now, this is probably the most boring pick of the draft. Jamison Crowder is one of the most boring players in the NFL. But he is the only reliable receiver that the Jets have. He should lead them in targets. I mean, right now, I don't even know who's starting for them. Perriman is hurt. Denzel Mims is hurt. I mean, they got guys that you got me. If you know who's playing for the Jets off the top of your head, they're starting top 3 receivers right now. Good. Hats off to you. And he was Jim's wide receiver 5. So that is a very safe wide receiver 5 who should provide a decent weekly floor every week, really. The worst pick of this round was Leach taking Antonio Gibson right after Crowder. Why are people so high on Antonio Gibson? Now, this is even after the Redskins, the Washington football players cut Adrian Peterson. Now, they could sign Adrian Peterson after week 1, and his salary is not guaranteed. So they can sign him right back in, 10 days or something like that. There's absolutely zero statistical or analytical evidence that proves Antonio Gibson is going to get the touches that he needs to be a lucrative fantasy player. Do you know how many touches Antonio Gibson had in college? 77 touches. Not last year. College. All of college. 77 touches. That's rushes and receptions. Don't worry, though. He got drafted by the Washington guys who try to play football, who had the least amount of plays run in the whole league last year. They have a new coach. I get it. But their coach, Ron Rivera, who's great, mind you, but he's not a hurry-up offense kind of guy. That's not his style. So I don't get it. At least Antonio Gibson isn't buried on the depth chart. But he is. Even with Adrian Peterson gone, Peyton Barber is supposed to be the guy that steps up and takes that role. I don't know. I don't understand it. I have no idea what people are thinking. Next, Darius Slayton went off the board. So now all 3 of the Giants wide receivers have been drafted. So that's fun. Belo took Deebo Samuel with the 7th pick of that round, and I love that pick. Deebo's out for a while. He may come back week 1, probably not, but that pick I think is going to pay off big time when he returns. I ended up with Justin Jefferson, as I mentioned before. He's going to get opposing teams' number 2 cornerbacks. He's going to play in the slot a lot probably, so he should be the go-to guy for Kirk Cousins and not Adam Thielen. Round 10, 3 more rookie receivers went early. Ruggs went. I took Brandon Ayuk, and Jerry Jeudy also went. Now, I do not like taking 2 rookie receivers, or really 2 rookies at all, but they both have a path to targets with fairly nice ceilings. So that was my excuse I made to myself for that. Phil took the first defense in the 10th round by selecting San Francisco. which was obviously dumb. Fantasy defenses fluctuate so much year to year. I don't understand how many times I had to say this. I mean, just look from year to year at the fantasy defenses. The top 10 from year to year change so much. There's so much volatility there. But don't worry. While making the pick, Phil yelled out, "Best available." First off, it wasn't. And second, just because you say it, it doesn't make it true. He was basically Michael Scott declaring bankruptcy. It's not how it works. It's not how any of this works. The 11th round, lots of backups and handcuffs go this round. Coons would have had the best pick. He took Jonnu Smith, but he already had a tight end. So instead, the prestigious award for the best pick of the round goes to no one. This round stunk. Yurkus took Jace Sternberger, who is his second tight end, and I'm not even sure that dude knows what a football field looks like. Bob, this is my favorite pick of the draft. Bob decided that he wanted Justin Williams of Green Bay. And this, kids, is why we at least do a little bit of research. First of all, Justin Williams is an ice hockey winger for the Carolina Hurricanes. And second, Bob was trying to draft the backup running back for Green Bay, which is obviously rookie A.J. Dillon. He wanted Dillon, and instead he drafted an NHL player. None of this makes any sense. I took Damian Harris before we found out he was hurt, so that's fun. The 12th started with the Allgren taking Brashad Perriman. I think that's a decent pick there. It's a home run swing. Perriman, he blew up last year. He was one of the top receivers for the last 4 or 5 weeks of the season last year. Chia followed that up with a decent. Chia followed that decent pick up by taking Chris Herndon, his third tight end. 3. I'm sure most of you are probably thinking, well, this guy, me, I'm just ticked off because I didn't get anyone. But that's false. I got the 11th tight end on my board, and I think it was a 17th or 18th tight end drafted in our league with the very next pick. I've talked about this guy numerous times on the show, Jack Doyle. He's set up to have a big year. Now, granted, he does need to stay healthy. He's a little banged up now. As long as he can stay on the field, he is going to produce, especially since his direct backup, Trey Burton, is also out with an injury. Paris Campbell went to Bob, was a decent flyer pick. He's supposed to be running the slot routes for the Colts, so that's okay. And at least for Bob, this guy actually plays football. Harvey went homer pick. He took the Ravens defense. Aaron Rodgers, Drew Brees, and Carson Wentz all went in the 12th round. And that, my friends, is why you can wait for a QB. Now, I still wouldn't have waited for any of those guys, even if I knew the draft was going to pan out this way, because, like I said, I hated everyone on my draft board in the 6th round. So I'm happy to take Russell where I did. And now that I think about Harvey taking his homer defense with the Ravens there, he also took Marquise Brown in the 4th round. You want to talk about homer picks? He probably could have got Marquise Brown in the 7th round, 8th round. I sure as heck wasn't drafting him. So that's another few rounds gone by. Let's check out this chat. Phil is embracing my Michael Scott comment by posting a GIF of Michael Scott, I'm hoping, declaring bankruptcy. Oh, Phil, you're great. Let's see. Chase Vernon says, a great schedule for JT, who I'm thinking is saying Jonathan Taylor, and that is true. And Marlon Mack, I just heard on the radio. Now, you don't want to, I don't know, put words in people's mouth, or Marlon Mack did an interview, and he just looked very sad. Marlon Mack looked like a guy who knew he was losing his job. And, I mean, that's not good for Mack. It's great for Jonathan Taylor and Jonathan Taylor owners, that's for sure. I mean, Taylor is so much more talented than Mack. Yes, Kim. So I'm rocking the glasses because if I couldn't, or if I didn't, I wouldn't be able to see your wonderful chats here. And yes, I don't know if my glasses are too big or my head's too big and it stretches out my glasses. It's probably the latter, but we'll see. Let's see. Handcuffs move up 2 rounds to the owners of starters, Kevin says. Madison should go around 12 for non-Cook owners and 10 for Cook owners. Kevin, I agree. Kuhn says he drafted Madison so early because Cook is holding out. He's not holding out. He's going to. The beat reporters in Minnesota said Cook, after he just said, I'm out of here, I'm good, I'm going to go ahead and go back, return to practice, got more carries and more looks after he went back to practice, after he threatened to hold out. So there goes that excuse. Kevin says running back by committee in Washington. Obviously, Gibson isn't going to be able to handle the carries. Then Coons fires right back, says fresh legs for Gibson with no one else in town. So this is going to be interesting, but I like this. Leach is saying ridiculous things about Tyler having the best draft. Phil thinks the Giants wide receivers are great because of game script. They're going to play from behind all year. That's true, Phil, which is why you should have kept DJ Chark that I traded you as another keeper pick that I drafted late last year. Chark and the Jaguars are going to be behind every single game. And he's going to blow up. And thank you for letting me have him. Phil also thinks Darius Slayton will be the team's most productive wide receiver. He's betting $1 on that. You got it, sir. I'll bet you $1 on that. Man, I'm making all kinds of side money here. All right. Kevin says he thinks this is the year of the rookie. What else? We got a lot of comments here. I appreciate it, folks. Appreciate it. Brashad Perriman, the 12th, is a value. I agree with that. Quit hating on Marquise Brown. Big Mac, get out of here. Marquise Brown is fine if you take him where he should go. He is not a 4th-round receiver. He's going to get you 20 points one week. He's going to get you 3 points the next, 2 points the next, 4 points the next, and he'll give you 20 again. You can't win consistently when that is how your players are scoring for you. All right. Let's see. Back to the draft. We are almost finished. Round 13. Actually, we really are close to being done. Round 13, a lot more dart throws and defenses. Somehow, Deshaun Jackson, the number 1 receiver in Philly right now, is sitting there for me with the 10th pick of the 13th. So I had to take him. Again, I'm not a huge fan of taking Eagles players. I know I took Miles Sanders before, but he was my RB3, and he does have a high ceiling. But Deshaun Jackson here in the 13th, he's most likely going to be in my starting lineup week 1. And if he kills Washington like he always does, right there, that 13th round pick is already paid off. Finally, the final 2 rounds are full of guys that are trying to hit on a sleeper pick for next year. Players like Tua Tagovailoa went, T. Higgins, he went, Michael Pittman, who's already been dropped, and Denzel Mims, all coming off the board in those final 2 rounds. Mr. Irrelevant, let me check. It was a defense. Kansas City's defense was Mr. Irrelevant. So there you have it. There is our draft broken down round by round. I hope that you all enjoyed it. I hope you learned some stuff as we're going through here. Got in my mind a little bit, learned some things. And that's all I got. Phil still thinks his keeper is fine in Lamar Jackson, and I'm not arguing that, Phil. Your keeper is fine. And honestly, if I was faced with Chark or Jackson, I probably would have went with Lamar Jackson as well. Yeah, I would have. Chark, I think Chark was going to be your, 10th or 11th round keeper, which would have been a fantastic value as well. I'm obviously happy you did not go that route. And keep in mind, Phil is probably the only player in the country who had Lamar Jackson last year and did not win the fantasy championship. I'm not even sure he made the playoffs. That's okay, Phil. I still love you, buddy. D-Jax in the 13th is definitely a great value until the 3rd quarter of week 1. And I'll tell you what, he might produce enough by the 3rd quarter of week 1 that it'll pay off and I'll still be all right. Folks, I appreciate you all joining me tonight. There were lots of folks in here chatting. This has been awesome. It only went 40 minutes. I figured I'd be chatting a lot longer than that. But thank you so much. Again, B&B's Football Happy Hour. Bonus content, just me flying solo. And check us out. We're on YouTube now. I think that means, I don't know, big time. Everybody likes YouTube, I guess. But I just spent the last couple days working diligently, uploading as many videos as I could and as many episodes as I could to YouTube. So please get on there, like them, subscribe, whatever you got to do to make sure YouTube knows that we are loved, because obviously we love you. And I hope the guys in my draft, all 11 of you folks, you know I love you. I'm giving you a hard time on here, but I'm honest. I think worst draft of the year award has to go to Chia. Sorry, man. You're great. You really are, but not at fantasy football. And that's okay. And he's also a fellow Eagles fan, so you got to love him for that as well. Phil's wife, Michelle, wants to know about boat stories. Come on, Michelle. You know better than that. Anyway, check us out. Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Podbean, just about everywhere else that you can find podcasts. We are there. We'll have another show coming up on Tuesday. I know we're going to be breaking down the Dolphins. And I think two of our favorite guests, Kevin and Chase, who was just on not too long ago, I think they're going to join Brian and I, and we're just going to hash out all of the other teams that we didn't get to touch on and we didn't get to break down. I think the Jets are going to be on there, the Vikings are going to be on there, and we're just going to go at it, all four of us back and forth. So hopefully you all will enjoy that, and hopefully you enjoyed this. And again, I appreciate you all coming out here, supporting us and chatting with me and, participating. We're also going to work on, actually, a listener, Coons. He gave a great idea about us starting a B&B's Football Happy Hour fantasy draft. And, I think what we're going to try to do, I'm going to talk to Brian and see if we can't post something about it. And then maybe the first 10 or 12 people that reply to that post, we'll get you in the league. And then we'll be able to break down that league week after week on the show as we go through it. So great idea, Coons. I think we're going to use that. And hey, we're here for you. If you have a great idea, let us know. If you have a question, let us know. We'll answer it or do our best to. So anyway, thank you so much. And we're out of here. Have a good night, folks. Thanks.